I'll admit, like, I used to go on the fans forums, like, if you like,
you do,
like, you used to go on and just, because you would think about what people were saying about you, like,
what they say.
It's only human.
There's 10 comments. He's brilliant, 9 times, and if somebody says, "Oh, he looks overweight, he wasn't great," you go, "Oh, you cheeky." But if at 9, it's just you just pick on the one through the negative.
Football's so difficult as well because you can go for like right up there 1 week, and then the next day you do make one mistake, or you miss a goal, and then you're right down there.
But you could actually be brilliant for 10 games, and there's still somebody out there that doesn't like you. That's also it's a game of opinions as well.
It definitely is.
You can't. That's one thing I'd say to younger players, like, just don't read it. Just let your mum and dad or your missus not tell you a class and just keep walking. Don't read anybody else's opinion.
That Mental Health Chat, a podcast brought to you by Back Onside, the mental health charity, in partnership with G4 Claims Limited. Okay, welcome to a special episode of That Mental Health Chat, a podcast brought to you by Back Onside, the mental health charity, and this episode comes to you in partnership with Be Inspired Clothing. We're back here in the cracking G4 podcast studio, and what a lineup we have. I'm joined by ex-footballers Steve and Robb and Mark Corcoran, the duo behind clothing company Be Inspired, as well as St Johnstone goalkeeper Zander and Motherwell striker Tony Watt. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
How are we all doing? All right?
Good. Are we all right?
So, just as a wee sort of introduction, I thought we'll go straight into why we're here. So we're here because of Back Onside and Be Inspired having a collaboration for a new cap that's going to be brought out. So exciting stuff, and I think importantly we could start just around the table just about our guests, who we've got, what we're up to, and start with Tony, a wee bit about yourself.
What?
Who you are, why you're here.
Right, that's fine. I didn't know it was going to be that kind of podcast. No, I think you've done enough introducing for me. Footballer, obviously joined by another footballer and a couple of successful businessmen who are ex-footballers, so it's good to be in here and it's good to be talking about things that really matter.
Alright, guys, what about yourselves? A wee bit about your background to use.
You can start.
So just played football for a long time, and then obviously when we were coming out of football we didn't really know what we were going to do, and we sort of fell into sort of a clothing company. Me and Stephen had sort of played together at St Mirren, and he'd gone away to Thailand, and we'd obviously kept in touch about like coming to the end of our careers, kind of wondering what we were going to do, and over there he'd managed to find sort of like factories and things that we could sell over here, and at first he'd sent me t-shirts from Thailand, and we were selling them online sort of on eBay and things like that, and it sort of progressed, and like how about we start our own sort of clothing company, and it just went from there really, and the last sort of 6 years have been a bit of a whirlwind, and we are where we are, so we kind of got a bit lucky, but it's ended up pretty well.
Good stuff.
Kind of just started off as a couple of Dell boys and just wheeling and dealing. That was kind of how it started. It was all just a bit of a hobby to start with.
Yeah.
Obviously coming out of football was a bit scary at that time, just like what you're going to do, what I'm going to do next, so kind of almost fell into this a little bit. So just like Mark says, like last few years have been a bit mental, bit of a whirlwind, so obviously still keeping in touch with certain footballers and trying to keep involved with the game, and just obviously when the option of collaboration with you guys came up, it was kind of an ideal fit for us.
I know it's not something that's big, but it's maybe giving something a little bit back to the game as well, maybe helping out in any way we possibly can, because like I say, footballers have promoted stuff for us for free and helped us get off the ground, so if we can give anything back that maybe helps somebody that in need at that point in time, great.
Absolutely, I'm sure it'll be very much appreciated. You know, like any sort of help that you can give back to people is always well worth it.
Yeah, sure.
Xander, what about yourself? Playing career, where are you just now?
Currently at St Johnstone, but you know, obviously the same as Tony, just still in the game at the minute and delighted to be there. But it's one of those that when I got asked to come on this, it's obviously for something that's well spoken about. Sort of the professional game at the minute, and glad that I can come on and sort of give an insight and speak about it.
Brilliant. Well, obviously, thanks first of all for joining us. One of the things that I think we could kind of start off by talking about is you guys have already touched on it, and it's something that we'll probably kind of covered, but a big thing that has sort of come to light, and part of what Back Inside's going to be looking at is players coming to the end of their career. if I could maybe even start with yourself, Tony, is that something you've thought about? I'm not trying to end your career prematurely here, by the way. I'm just that, do you know what I mean?
No, I want to play as long as possible. 35 minimum. But obviously I do my badges and I'm doing my B licence, and then there's wee bits of kind of business ideas you have, or wee bits you've got your wee pies you've got your fingers in, as you say. And no, I'm not.
Boys talk about it in the dressing room, didn't they?
Aye,
Because that's what we found. We always found after training it would be a case of like, oh, what you
there's a few of us that met up, wouldn't they? We'd meet up and we'd have a wee discussion about like, we're all getting a bit older, what are we going to do? Do you know what I mean?
No, there's a few things I'd like to do as well. I think there's a few things lacking maybe in certain places as well, that maybe at the end of my career, but now I'm not too fussed about it. Eventually I'll see that the time's right, that you don't want the opportunity to pass, but there is some business ventures I want to do while I'm still playing, but also other stuff I want to do when I'm done. But it's just obviously
sometimes it's hard as well when you're playing as well. Like you have to give 100% to your,
of course,
your obviously your career.
You don't want to be going to meetings at night.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So see if your focus switches. Well, that happened with me at the end when I was playing in Thailand. See, for the last 6 months I wasn't bothered about the football. I was literally going to the factories and doing this, doing that, just like thinking like, oh, I'm going to start a business here. This is and like you end up like forgetting about, I've got a game tomorrow. I'm going to hate to think about that. So
would you say like first and foremost you'd think about staying involved in the game after you'd played? Just because like when I first stopped, like I didn't really know what I was going to do, so I was like, I did my B licence, just like I'm panicking, do the B licence, and then I took it from there. But like luckily I fell into something else and I moved away from football. But I think like sometimes it's like stick with what you know. Like,
that's why I done my B licence. I just asked the club to do it when I was signing another contract. So I'm most settled I've been. I thought since I'm settled I can do it in the background, because it's not, the B licence isn't 24 hours a day, it's maybe a couple of hours a week. And I thought,
do you get to do the coaching to the kids at Motherwell?
I will. That's the next stage. Because COVID, I was meant to go and shadow one session a week, and then it depends what age group, but some of them play on a Sunday, so I could actually then go and watch them on a Sunday. And just, I was speaking to girls the other day about it. See when we do a warm-up, maybe it's different for kids doing warm-ups, 15, 16 year olds, what they need to be taught rather than what we get taught. So if I went and tried to do what we do in the first team, they'd maybe be like, what's this? Because if you do, as you evolve as a player, you actually maybe do less coaching as you were when you were young. So I need to go and, for me the ideal thing would be obviously have a few business ventures on the side, but go and shadow a few younger coaches and see, like coaches for younger players, because then you can see, is that for me or not? I don't want to jump head in. It's like anything, like you're saying, you can go and test the waters a little bit, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if I don't like it, then there's no point in me doing it, because I won't get 100% if I don't like something. It's just,
I think that's important, because as you said, you'll probably stick to what you know. And how many footballers maybe get through coaching badges just because it's an option that's there and it's something that you're familiar with?
It's a wage as well for our boys. A lot of boys maybe, if say you're at a championship team or high league one team in Scotland and you're earning £500, £600 a week and it's covering your house, when that stops, what they go to earn, and they probably think, oh, I'll get a couple of £100 for coaching, but they're maybe no good. But it's not as if they can turn around and say, oh, I'm no good at this, then that's fine. But they need to depend on it. And it's no fault of their own. That's just the way. I don't think that's what we were talking about before. It's actually refreshing seeing these teams in the lower divisions paying people good money, like your Queen's Park, Kelties and that, because the more money in the game the better, because it's only going to be footballers that benefit from it. You can't grumble at that, because if they're full time, you know what you're doing, you're putting your body through the mire for, obviously in England it's different, people think you're getting $100 grand a week.
I think there's a wrong perception of what, especially in Scotland, what players actually earn.
Your Queen of Souths and Queen,
in comparison with what boys are getting,
Morton's, all these probably average wage £400-500 a week, and you know yourself that if you go and get a mortgage, a car, most of that's gone. That's gone, before you get your electricity, council tax, that. So
you've got a decent living while you're playing football, but it's not like
you've
got loads of, like, certainly if you'd played at like a certain level in Scotland all your life, do you know what I mean? It's like,
that's what a lot of folk don't understand, isn't it? It's sort of, everybody just gets tarred with the one brush. Everybody thinks that you're earning, you know, the millions that they make down the road in England, and it's one of them, touching on the sort of coaching badges, like saying get into it, it's anytime you speak to somebody with football, it's what you're doing after football, you're coaching. It's just, they seem to think that that's like the natural progression, but obviously, as Tony says, he's got business ventures that he's got in his mind. I'm pretty similar myself. There's some things that I would like to try out with, coaching. Listen, it doesn't sort of appeal. Well, it doesn't appeal to me, but it's one of them that I'd like to go and try something different rather than do the coaching side of it. But it would be good to have in case you want to fall back on it. You've been in the game a long time, and
there's just not enough coaching jobs out there either.
No, that's it.
You're thinking how many
That's it.
players there are in comparison with how many coaches there are.
You imagine 20 players in a squad, 5 members of the staff at outside Old Firm, 5 members of the staff at Hearts, Hibs maybe for the first team, a couple of the youth team.
I would say, if you're going to do anything after football, probably like you were saying, 100%. You need probably what worked for us after football in the business is we put everything into it. Put as much as we put into our football career into the business, and that's what worked for us.
You almost become obsessed.
We're obsessed. We all say that we're obsessed with it. People think when it comes to the weekend that you switch off, or it's like a footballer's life almost, where it gets to Friday night and your mates are all going away out with their pals and partying, and you're you're thinking about the game tomorrow, and even when it gets to Saturday night, you're like, I'm off Sunday, but you're still thinking about the game, and I've got training Monday morning.
Oh, maybe had a bad game, or we didn't win, I can't go out. I'm trying to. I was on the B licence, but I was on the physical prep side of it, and I was saying to them, it's almost as if I'm telling myself I'm a 35-year-old man and just living as if I need to recover my body as if I'm 7-8 years older, because you want to prolong it, because if you go and do well and you continue, what's the point in putting an age on it? Do you know what I mean? What's the point in, because like you say, when you stop, it's not as if you can go, I'm 37, 30, I'll just go again and do it. When your football career's done, you're done. You need to you need to treat your body as if it's.
I think sometimes that's maybe why it is so harsh at the end. When it is over, because you've done that and you've put everything into it, and then it's like, well, for me, I got an injury, and I knew myself. I was like, can I play? And it's like, what am I going to do now? And I was like, wow. And it was a big shock for me. And luckily, like I said, we sort of had this thing on the side, like you were talking. It was like a side venture. I was selling t-shirts to boys in the changing room, and then selling stuff to
I'd love you in my changing room. I used
to go to Montrose with a box. I used to when I was at Montrose, and it was a box. I just chuck it in the car going to training, and I used to come in, and the boys used to call it the whoopsie box. So the yellow sticker for Asda. Here's the whoopsie box. This is for a tenner. Basically, used to put it in there. The boys were delighted, got their gear for the weekend.
See the thing, right? And I don't know, maybe do you think there's enough emphasis on that as a young player coming up through and getting into maybe a first team? There's enough emphasis on this career's not going to last forever, and by the end of it, you need to start thinking about, or maybe not think about what you're going to do, but have a wee idea as to what you might do towards the end of your career. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's difficult though, because like these boys are saying, the top level, you have to put everything into it, because there's another boy that's waiting in the wings that's putting everything into it. So it's probably trying to get that balance of I've got something, but at the end of the day, you're fully focused on your football career at their age. Do you know what I mean? And they're fighting off other boys that are trying to get in the team, and it's like, it must be it is difficult to think. It's maybe I don't know if there's help from outside. I think back Onside and maybe doing something. To sort of help. But it's like when I came at the end of my career, I looked at and maybe wrongly, I looked at the PFA, to help. What do I do now? And there wasn't really any help there, which is something that we did at the start. Was we could maybe give part-time footballers jobs in the warehouse or the office, and we were trying to get boys involved, just because I knew how difficult it was when it came to an end. But
they're giving you tailor courses and these but when you're 35, you don't want to be going doing an apprenticeship. You don't want to be going to do 2 years of not earning. You need to go and earn. So like you say, you need to, like you said, straight in and get a job, and that's what's good for you. If you give somebody a job, they're earning and they're getting on with it. And I was alright. I didn't go through an academy till I was 7, 8, but imagine you're 8 years old, all you know is football, and you get to 33, 34, and you've had a good career out of it, maybe you've had your house paid off or something, but you're not going to be able to have your house paid off, because then you've got your bills still coming in, so you couldn't just retire. People think footballers are just going to retire, but to retire, you're talking you'd need to be a millionaire probably, because
So something like about 3% of professional footballers make enough in the game to be able to live off after football.
I think
it's a very, very small
In the
percentage.
UK, it must only be boys in the Premiership. They've played in there for a wee while.
Unless you're smart enough where you're getting income every month that then sets you up. But then again, that's still working for you, but based on the money you've earned, it'd be hard to. You'd need to.
It'd be hard to just commit it and stop.
You'd need to.
Just go and live a
you'd need to be.
stress-free life type thing.
You'd need to have obviously a lot of incomes if you're going to keep up a lifestyle like that, because you get a car, you've got a wife, you need a second car, you've got council tax to pay, you've got electricity, you've got petrol, you've got your shopping every.
I think it would be good to make the younger kids who are coming through in the youth teams, or even like your 16, 17, 18 year olds, to understand what's involved with like if it doesn't work out for you, or like there's an injury along the way, it's like, or like say you have a career at you're 34, what you maybe going to, what's your progression after that? Is there anything you like to do, or do you have because I think I say to him, it's like, see, after you leave football and you move on to a career, it's like, I think you have to have a passion for what you're doing. So like literally you have to love what you're. Do
you think a PFA could do that though? And for instance, say an apprenticeship's 3 years and you're a young scholar at 16, do you think instead of going to college for one day, do you think maybe you go and learn a trade, or
you can see what the trading laws are like now, especially with the COVID situation. They can't. There's not enough of them. You can't get
and batter it over 5 years, and maybe instead of going 40 hours a week, you're doing 10 hours a week for 5 years. And
see, it comes down to the boys as well. You can't just always look at the PFA and say the boys have got to go. Like, you can't be lazy. You've actually got to go and do this. Like,
but I don't think you'll be able to get into everybody individually. Do you think PFA just obviously for an example, but do you think there could be
something
that makes them do it? Because I'm the worst. See, if somebody says to me, like, I was in Belgium and I was picking up French, but the only way I would have learned French is if a club said to me, you're doing this 5 hours a week for 2 years. Because after a couple of weeks I'd just be like, just turn the PlayStation on and I'll just go for a nap. Do you know what I mean?
To my mates back home in English.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to speak to you that much that I need to learn French. And do you know what I mean? But see, if there was a structure in place, and I tried to get it, one of the clubs I said, like, can you make sure I'm doing it an hour before training? We spoke about it and it never really happened, but because I knew the only way I'd learn is if I, and it's like, if somebody wants an apprenticeship or wants a degree or welder point, maybe if they're learning £500 a week, we keep saying that as a benchmark, then when you're finished you can go into a job on the same money, because it's not unbelievable money that needs to be, like, it's not as if you're on £100 a week and you need to make that to live your lifestyle. You're still living. Do you think there's a way that
see in terms of, like, I don't know, like, I think that there's a balance, as you guys said, there's a balance obviously between, you have to, if you want to be a professional footballer, if you want to be the best at whatever you do, you've got to put everything into it. There's no doubt about that. But obviously it's the thought of, as you guys said again, if there's an injury or if a club doesn't fancy it and then things drop off.
This could be part of being a professional footballer, so, that's what I'm saying. It kind of marry it in with that.
So does the onus then maybe becoming a club to say, listen, as part of you coming up through the youth ranks, we understand that you have to give up so much of your education to make training 3-4 nights a week in games, but here's something that you need to consider.
There's 10 options, you need to choose one, and you've got 2 years.
As a link here,
it's part
Tony.
of your contract almost.
See, like in America, is that kind of what they do? Like,
well, they use it as,
and you've probably come out with like whatever sport they're doing. They've got some
NBA.
I suggested that to my young lad's 14, and I'd said to him, would you fancy doing that? Like an actual scholarship.
So they base everything around their education. So basically, if you're at high school, where no matter what your sport is, you play for the team, other high schools can actually come in and pick you up. So they're put in divisions. So you could maybe be playing for a Division 2 high school, and if you're good enough, a Division 1 will pick you up, which opens up.
Have a certain amount of education. Like, do you need? Is it like in Coach Carter when you watch
once
that,
it goes to so once it goes to college, it does. So once they go through that, and then a college comes in for them, and they can get picked up and get scholarships. Then again, it goes into Division 1, 2, 3 school or colleges, universities, and when they go there, they must maintain a certain grade point average while they're also playing.
Even things like,
you know, as motivation,
100%.
Even things like accountancy, financial management, these things would help people then look after their money, and then invest.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
fair
there's
enough.
so many, and it's
fairness, I think like, since obviously when I was coming up through the youth system, I think like these courses now that are available are sort of, I think they are more sort of tailored towards like boys coming up through the youth academies, because listen, when I was coming up, it was you go to college for an hour a day and get your ECL or whatever it is, your
I was making mac and cheese at college.
Computer course.
It's almost a relic. It's
Aye,
quite
but
small.
the first year I went,
Ticking a box.
We were
Yeah,
buzzing
yeah,
when
yeah.
it was
You've
cake
got
making
that.
week or whatever. You've got in Glasgow City College, you make a cake, you're buzzing because you can just walk into town after it and you're like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, we went to it and we had to go from Perth to Dundee once a week, and ended up we'd never done the computing club. We were doing a fashion show in the middle of Dundee shops. That was literally what we were doing all day. Like, everything was geared towards this, so it was. Listen, it was one of them that probably in the same boat as Tony. I'd need to be forced into it, you know, to sort of commit to it type thing. If it wasn't something that I was choosing,
Clubs don't care. The clubs don't care about that. For clubs
I
only
suppose
care
it's-
about like
I suppose
they
it's
care
more
about
business
results.
driven
Yeah,
than
because
anything.
that's what-
Yeah.
That's what
Having
really.
said that, we're saying that there's no things available. I know, like Scott Boyd that did like the university online thing. I thought that it was I think the PFA actually did put it on as like a degree for, and it was through like a university abroad maybe, and he actually did that, and he's at St Johnstone now,
he's
isn't
up at us
he?
now,
I think he's done really good. Well, I think he was at Kilmarnock as a player, and he got offered the chief executive at Ross County, and then he left, and he's gone to St Johnstone.
There is, but I think obviously there's a few boys that you know that are sort of older that are doing like degrees in that on the side, aren't they?
the boys at St Johnstone, that was the first time I'd ever seen that.
Like a couple of the boys are doing sort of open university degrees and that, but again, it's sort of, can you really put everything into it type thing? It's one of them.
It's going to be difficult.
You
isn't
have
it?
a bad training session, go home, the last thing you want to do is open up open
It's
music.
difficult.
If
I think it's quite a lot as well. It's quite intense.
If you're forced to, it's part of your routine. I read a book, that Atomic Habits, you heard it?
I know.
And it's like, and it's so true. See, like last year I started adding the gym in the morning, so between like 9 and 10 I'd go to the gym, and see if it was in my everyday schedule, I'd do it. But see, new manager changed and we were getting in training later, and I took it away, and then I'd maybe go to the gym on a Monday, not go on a Tuesday, not go on a Wednesday, but I'll go Thursday. But when I had that scheduled in every day for a set time, I'd done it every single day, and it was maybe going and doing 25 pull-ups, 50 press-ups, but it was an
It took
improvement.
me all week.
Sorry, I said it one session, I made it for a week. Do you know what I mean though? Like, just integrating it, and it's like yourself, like if you've got meetings and stuff, if you've not got them wrote down or you don't know what it is, there's got to be a mess up somewhere.
Like that. Like we've got diaries on the phone. It's like,
Aye.
oh mate, we've got like a schedule called
Yeah.
today. 10.
You've got that, and you
Girl
Yeah, we need to do it.
in
Do
the
you know
office
what I mean?
there,
Like,
she's always at
if
like,
you've
here's a
got-
diary. This is what you're doing.
If there could be a scope for that in terms of being made to do something between the ages of 16 and 20, because that's 4 years. You could probably get a 2-year course out of 4 years, or even
I
5
think it's
years.
maybe a difficult one to make people. Maybe at the start of the season or whatever, they say, "Do you want to do
offer
this?"
it.
And then once they've done it, then once they've said, "I want to do it," then they get
But
held
even-
accountable to do it. Do you know
But
what I mean?
even as part of like your like even if for instance at Marvel you finish training and they say right, you're going in a classroom for an hour and a half 2 times a week, that would build up and add up.
It
And
could be like, obviously when you sign like your sort of first YT form, there's the full squad doesn't go in full time. It could be a case of maybe the ones that are in their sort of first couple of years YTs in the morning, they could go and do a course, you know, like their morning could be made up of doing whatever, you know, sort of course that they fancy, and then training at night with the rest of the squad. Do you know what I mean? Because there was times where you've been training in the morning but you're not really doing much, and then you're back in at night to train with the rest of the team. Don't know if it could be sort of worked in a way that in the
Used to be
mornings, you
cleaning
know,
boots and that.
in the morning.
now it'd be better to go and do something like
Is
that.
that still?
I'm sure those
is
days
cleaning
are
boots
gone.
still a thing now?
It's supposed to be at our place, but my
Aye,
boots
aye,
are
aye.
bogging.
It's been a while. The old COVID just seems to capture it. Nah, we can't touch
That's
it.
because the boy that's doing yours has got a college course every day.
It better be account management. You better make me some money.
So something that I will touch on just when we're speaking about that is back Onside are working on an academy, which will partly to benefit guys that have either been released from a club, not got a contract, or are coming to the end of their career. So that's something that we're working on in the background just now. How big a help do you think that will be for guys that are maybe finding themselves in that position?
Like be big, in terms of, it's like the boys have touched on there. It's always that sort of daunting fear that, what if my career's over tomorrow? What am I going to do? And me personally, if my career was to finish, tomorrow, I've got nothing. I was dropped out of school as soon as I could, and I was one of them that was just always set on football. So I think if you had something that you could drop back into, and like that, try and get something out with football as well as sort of merging it with your sort of football training and trying to get a club, I think it would be something that's definitely sort of
even
not much yet available.
Even just like a support network, innit? Like I felt very alone. I felt very alone when I finished. Like I'd come for Ross County, I was full time. I'd got an injury. I knew I couldn't play it full time, so I tried to go part time. But I was just sitting in my flat on my own all the time. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, my career's coming to an end. Like, and I did feel quite alone in that. So even just having that sort of other people going through that might help spur somebody on, or like spark an idea, or like people get together and talk about things.
Even having like a backup plan. See for a kid coming, or even someone at like late 20s, early 30s, and having that like plan in place for when they're going to finish. It's almost like a relief. Like I feel when I finished, because I'd had obviously started the business with Mark and things were moving along nicely, and like I had so many back and hip, groin, hamstring problems that like when I did finish at Montrose part time, it was more a relief than anything. That God, did I need to make that 2.5 hour car journey 3 times a week? Do you know what I mean? It was like that was in my head. It's just going. I just felt so relaxed, and I had to. I'll be honest, I didn't miss playing. Like especially at part time, I wasn't cut out to play part. Like boys that play part time, like I take my hat off to them, because like the dedication that's involved with that, of going to work Monday to Friday, then going. I know they're getting a top up of their wages that they're doing on that, on top of their full time job, but
imagine
dedication
imagine coming in the door, been out for 6 until about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then going straight to training. You couldn't think of anything worse.
See, the thing is, I did it at the start of my career. I was part time. When in Hamilton, I was part time, and then I went full time, and then I went back part time, and I was just like, this is so difficult.
I was the same, but it's because when you're younger, football's your world. But then see when you go full time and then if you went part time again, football would become your secondary, because then you need to do something during the day, and then you wouldn't give as much. Automatically, you can't give 100%.
You still maybe got that hope at the start of your career that I can go full time. Then see when you're going full time, part time, you're like, I'm on the way down, man.
Get me out of this stadium and you're right. No, it's.
But again, mixing with like-minded guys. So as you say, you're maybe sitting thinking that all the time, like, oh God, I'm not really enjoying this, but you've got nobody really to bounce that off, because the rest of the guys are maybe there could be another 10 boys in the dressing room that are thinking the same but won't say it. But
probably helped like Robb coming back. Like Robb probably came back for Thailand and moved in with me at that point when we were starting the business, and that probably helped me a lot as well, not just being stuck in the flat on my own.
Well, we were both doing the same things. We were working in recruitment in the city centre, so we'd walk in, work in the morning, come back, and he'd go away to Stranraer and I'd go away up to Brechin, and then our 3 nights off, that's what we would do. Be inspired. We'd basically, it was like Monday, Wednesday.
Do you think, see if you were like, oh no, I'm going to train, do you think you'd be buzzing that at least somebody else needs to go through the pain? It's true, I know, but if you're going through that, you're like, oh, at least he's doing it well, so I'll go and do it.
To be fair, he was going to Montrose, I was like, he's got it worse.
That was.
You only trained the phase, it was alright.
True.
But it definitely did help, and like having something to like talk, like obviously the business to talk about as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what an obsession was it?
That was
an obsession. But see, that would take your mind off so much of the bad stuff, because you'd be like, I don't care. Like,
see, I worked in recruitment and they hated me because I was getting like stuff delivered to the office. Do you know what I mean? Like I was getting like t-shirt, like I was getting like 1,000 t-shirts delivered to the recruitment office.
There was VAT bills getting sent to people.
Going down. I was like fizzing, wasn't it? When 1,000 t-shirt turns up the office with a VAT bill, I was like, it's time for me to go, guys. I can't stay here anymore.
Going to the post office at lunchtime.
I spent all our lunch hour like just posting packages in the post office. It's good though, what was I doing?
Well, it's worked out alright though, thankfully.
Can't complain.
So see, just touching on that, because obviously what we're talking about really is we're we're touching about in mental health, right? And what something that interests me is the kind of stigma around mental health, because it's everywhere. I don't really care what anybody says. It's my opinion, and I think there is still a stigma attached to mental health when anybody speaks about it. But personally, what do you guys see within football? Do you think there's a kind of bigger stigma within like a kind of changing room environment? And for the guys that are still playing, do you see that changing at all?
No, I think it's got better over the years. Like, you would never have spoke about it about 15 years ago, like I'm feeling down or he looks a bit down. But sometimes I'm probably guilty of giving people too much leeway. But if somebody's not speaking one day and they're having a bad day, you probably don't want to shout at them as much if they're not doing it, because you're like, oh, maybe he never played at the weekend, he's affected a wee bit, he's a good guy, and you probably worry about people, how they react and stuff. Whereas if somebody's played at the weekend and they're a bit cheeky, you'll go back at them and you'll have an argument. But you always weigh stuff up because you think it's the same with like people with gambling problems. That if you knew somebody had lost a lot of money, or you wouldn't shout at them as much. And I think now you are very sensitive to people around you, because you know that it can be hard. It's probably one of the hardest things.
I think it's good that people are more aware of it though.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, people, like say, people were definitely not aware of it. Like, I think people just didn't think it was a thing back when we played junior.
Do you think they didn't think that, or just didn't want to recognise it? Because I would say it's changed in general. I think just across the board, the kind of persona of people with mental health and the awareness around mental health.
It was almost like it wasn't allowed to be a thing in the dressing room, probably back.
Mentally strong.
Yeah,
you had to be
tough,
especially
strong,
part-time or full-time Scotland. Like, to be in a Scottish league, you need to be strong, you need to be tough, you need to be a big grizzly bear. That's the way it is. But now you can, boys actually talk, boys are actually probably more open. Not that I know football's, it is every man for himself, there's a lot of selfishness in it, but if somebody comes to you and they say, oh, I'm feeling down, you'd sit with them, you'd talk to them, you'd have a coffee, and that's maybe not what would have happened 10 years ago, because they'd be like, oh, what are you down about, what you man up, this and
Man up,
but no, it's, I reckon 9 out of 10 footballers probably will suffer with it at one point, whether it's worry and anxiety, depression. It's just it's part and parcel. Like, I'm telling you, on a Saturday, if you've had a stinker of a game and you go home, you're thinking about that game. Sunday, you're thinking about it as well. When you get back in on Monday, you're probably, oh no, what do you think my teammates think of me? Do you think they think this, blah blah blah? Oh, I've cost the game. Probably worse for a goal if you've made a mistake. Imagine a goalie's head on a Saturday if they made a mistake.
A lot of folks say, as soon as the game's done, it's you blank out, but you don't. It's you know what I mean. It's as soon as you get home, it's the first thing that's on your mind. That journey home, more so in the last sort of year with travelling yourself in terms of with the sort of COVID situation. It's a lonely place, but it's one of them, as Tony said. Like, now you can go and speak to teammates and that, and you can have a coffee and people are willing to listen to what's up with you, how you're feeling. So definitely,
I feel like social media has made a difference for because your generation, like our generation, is like it wasn't like as accessible. Like obviously Facebook was around, but like there was never like when we used to. I'll admit, like I used to go on the fans forums. Like if you like, you used to go on and just. Because you would think about what people were saying about you, like
what they say.
It's only human.
People care what
there's 10 comments. He's brilliant. 9 times, and if somebody says, "Oh, he looks overweight and he wasn't great," you go, "Oh, you cheeky." But you've had 9. It's just you just pick on the one through the negative.
Football's so difficult as well because you can go for like right up there 1 week, and then the next day you do make one mistake, or you miss a goal, and then you're right down there.
But you could actually be brilliant for 10 games, and there's still somebody out there that doesn't like you. That's also it's a game of opinions as well.
It definitely is.
You can't. That's the one thing I'd say to younger players, like, just don't read it. Just let your mum and dad or your missus and that tell you your class, and just keep walking. Don't read anybody else's opinion, because I think actually Neil McCann gave me a bit of the weekend. Something like, I scored, got an assist, but he said something like, I think it's the other parts of his game that aren't great. It's the opposite. I never scored enough last year, never got any assists, but I was playing my best football. You've been in the game for how many years, and you're getting paid to do this and you can't do it right. At least say I don't score enough goals and get assists and then say the other part's good.
I
And
think
this
like
is
the people
professional.
they get more news or thing for being critical rather than being complimentary. Sometimes
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it,
You know what I
it
mean?
sort of
It's
sparks more in an audience.
It's like if you think about like
controversial
Roy
and
Keane or whatever, Phil Neville, the things that they're remembered for is slaughtering somebody.
Well, look
They're
at-
not remembered for.
100%.
By the way, he
We'll
was
look at Roy
brilliant
Keane, Chris Sutton, to maybe a less extent Boydie, but they get a bit more coverage when they're a bit more controversial, don't they?
Aye,
Look at
because
that.
it'll
look
blow
at
up on
as
social
soon as-
media, so that's what they try and
Soon as the
do.
biggest one,
Yeah.
Pogba gets 4 assists and he still can't say niceness everywhere.
Because they never
And-
scored.
Aye, 'cause you never, that should be normal getting 4 assists for Man U. Well, actually, it shouldn't unless you're some sort of god. You know what I mean? It's just if you've got a bad taste for somebody in your mouth, you've got to say negative stuff. If you're a pundit, if you're a commentator or whatever, it's just so natural. Just don't read it, don't get into it, and just do you, improve. Keith Lasley said to me this year, it's you v you, and it's true. See if you beat your run by a second, see if you improve your goals by 1 goal. It's not about who's around you, it's you v you, and it's so true. Like, you need to better yourself, because if you don't better yourself, you're not improving. Do you know what I mean? You don't care if me and Zander are goalies and he gets in 10, I let in 11. Who cares? See if next season I get 10, he gets 9. I'm still improved. So's he, but so that. Do you know what I mean? It's not about beating the other person. It's beating yourself.
Agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that, to be fair.
A good attitude, that.
I suppose it's you could take that into other walks of life as well. It's
that's
always
what I
about
mean,
just
like,
improving yourselves.
Maybe not as hard,
Do you know?
not as hard on yourself because
Yeah.
well, I've improved myself. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're just comparing yourself to somebody else all the time.
Usually be
Comparison
going-
is a thief of joy. Is that not what they're saying? Is if you're always comparing yourself against others or other things, then you're taking away the sort of enjoyment for yourself, because obviously
Usually
you
have targets as well.
Aye.
Eh?
Well, that's
Aye.
the thing, it's
in any
not,
walk
it's
of
like
life.
usually we're all just talking about football, but it's every walk
It's
of
everything.
life.
Aye.
You know, it's like
Sometimes
it doesn't matter if it's a
sometimes
building
we're bad
site
for
or
it. We're bad for
Yeah,
it.
we are.
Sometimes we maybe look at what other people are doing. Go, why are we not doing that? But we're maybe doing better than we were before. But we're like, we're not doing as well as like that brand up there. Or
Yeah.
like, and they're more established or old or whatever.
Exactly.
And you're like you say, comparisons all the time. I think social media is quite.
I think,
bad for
and
that
that's
as
one
well.
thing that we've probably got lucky with, is because me and him can bounce off things to each other, saying, maybe not feeling like, even I was speaking to him last week about it, like I'm just like, like it's been a bit tougher, like maybe the last couple of months because
With COVID
COVID and like
and things like that.
people aren't going on holiday, so our EU market slowed down a bit, but like UK still being great, and it's like we can bounce off these anxiety things that we've got.
Yeah.
Like we've still got, like we obviously work in advance, so we're obviously looking at like Christmas time and what's coming up, and we're looking at a new warehouse just now. There's just wee different things in business that you're like,
But
you
you're
still
always
have the
looking to
same,
improve as well.
yeah, you still got the same things.
Just maybe
Like
come at me and go, I feel a bit stressed about that, and then we'll have a wee conversation, and you
levels it out. Do you know?
That's what I think. And again, in all walks of life, see, as a coach, see if I ever became a manager, I would always get somebody that can tell me right, not somebody that's just got to say, "Aye, Tony, you're right." I'd always have somebody that says to me, "No, actually, wait a minute, we've sold this amount this year. Maybe it's not here, but we've improved here." So you're still going to like yourselves. Maybe you use slow, but you're still doing it in the UK. And do you know what I mean? Somebody that I've seen so many times that a manager brings an assistant just to say yes to him, and it doesn't work, because you need to be challenged, and you need
just
to
massaging their ego. Pretty
you
much.
need to have another view, and you need to have
It's maybe alright in
somebody.
the short term, but long term,
It's not helping. Maybe they're being your mate and thinking they're doing it for the right intentions, but see if you're actually going to a downward spiral and kind of slippery slope, you need somebody to say, "No, you need to do this different. Don't think you handled that right. Don't think you spoke to him right." Do you know what I mean? And or employ the right person or the wrong person, or in any walk of life there needs to be a kind of like yourselves, somebody that can tell you yes and somebody that can tell you no as well, though.
You think, because something else is that, just when you're touching on that there, Tony, see, like, as a do you think even the role of a manager's changed over the years? Because obviously now, as you speak about, you've got to maybe, you've probably gone on the days where a manager would just come in and rent the changing room and
Need to be
go
a
on
bit of an actor, aye.
And obviously people are all individual. Like, alright, he's collectively a team, but to get the best out of you, you might need a kick up the arse, you might need told. But I might turn around to you and say, "Listen, 2 minutes, take you to the side," and that might be something that you might not respond well to that. So do you think, like, as a manager, do you think that have you noticed any change in that in managerial styles?
I think so, and I think a lot of it now is what how do you manage somebody? You know, as you say, some folk might react better to getting a ball in. You know, it might spur them on, whereas others might sort of disappear, go quiet, and not perform. Some folk, you know, just need an arm on the shoulder and totally brilliant, even if they've had a shocker. And it's one of them that you just need to know how to get the best out of certain individuals. And I think probably it has changed, you know, over the last, for whatever I've been in the game, you know, gone are the days of, as you say, managers coming in and the teapots getting launched about.
Well, would have changed much in a couple of years as well, going for Big Tommy, who's a shouter, well known to Cal, who's more cool.
I think it's just like I say, it's how you deal with, as you say, you're a team at the end of the day, but that team's made up of individuals. So it's how do you get the best out of each individual to get the best for what's for the team.
Big Tommy was good for that, wasn't he? Going back to managers, like he knew who to shout at, and he knew. Remember the training session we were doing a possession and Liam Gordon must have gave the ball away a couple of times, and what was it? Don't buy into the hype.
Don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype or something. And he made us all walk to the edge of the circle and come back in, and just like he was just going on a rant as we walked out and walked back in. But he was good at it because he was a madman. But during the week he was brand new. On the touchline he was mad. After the game he was mad, but he would always be alright with you after. He would always. He loved you. He would hammer you, wouldn't he? You could have a clean sheet and maybe throw the ball to you instead of right by your foot to the left back and he'd hammer big Zander, but it's because that's his boy and he knew who to get to. But he'll probably
was good in terms of the fact that he knew who like that, who needed the arm
and who could take it,
who could sort of stand up to it type thing and improve from it. So I say it has been probably a change that listen, managers have had to adapt to as well. You know, if they've been in the game a long time, it's that sort of
managers have definitely had to adapt over the last 20 years.
There won't be many shouters left.
And probably the awareness of mental health and how it affects people more so in the past few years is probably something that managers have taken on board. Do you find that with your business, that your kind of managerial style or how you manage your staff is you think about sort of...
Me and Robb aren't really like sort of confrontational characters. We've never really been people that would shout, but we try and lead by example. So in the beginning we would like be writing about everything, like packing the orders, printing the orders, doing the designs, in about everything, and sort of lead so people would see how we did things and how involved we were and how enthusiastic we were, and they would get enthused from that. And then obviously as it's got bigger, we've hired people that we've put in positions we believe carry our values to the staff below them, but we've never really, and you wouldn't get away with speaking to people in sort of normal jobs the way you get football. I'm not really one for shouting, but like
sometimes
people
like
ask people directly.
The way you can act in a football dressing room, you can't take that into a workplace.
No,
you just can't do it.
Imagine in an office, some of the things you say to people. Like,
that's what I mean.
So
it's
like straight up to
yeah,
but it's not bad and it's not malicious. But there's just a kind of common ground about footballs where you can hammer people and you can.
They've probably all got the same mentality though, so they can deal with that. Do you know what I mean?
The amount of times I've called somebody a C word or whatever, and then at the end of the game we're hugging, and that's at half time, and you're like 45 minutes, and he's called me a fat. Sorry for language, and then I came back and saying who you talking to, and then we're hugging it after. Do you know what I mean? You're 1-0 down and you win 2-1 and you're hugging.
I suppose
it's the adrenaline and sport, a sporting environment where there's the adrenaline flow and everybody's hyper, so your senses are all heightened and everybody's in a different state. But I suppose it's more about after that how it then, because something else that and not just in football but like banter. Do you know how things get passed off as banter? So there's a certain amount of that which is probably acceptable. There's a certain amount that's pretty borderline, isn't there? But truth, like you spoke about that before. So like, do you think even that's changed? Do you think the line with banter's changing?
Football is not. I think football you can still get away with most weak
truth jokes. Like I probably see because I'm not confrontational. I'll probably make a truth joke out of it. Like if I don't like something or I'm not happy with something somebody's done, I'll maybe make a truth joke of it, then come out and be like,
what do you mean by a truth joke? Like,
I don't know,
if somebody's made that wrong, you go, you just leave that like that.
Rather like
I say, why is that not?
Why have you done
I like that.
That's a cut-off line, innit? Like not hurt their feelings.
I've
never heard that.
Just put it out there, so see when you put that in the group chats again, everybody will know exactly what you mean.
We cut this bit out. Nobody's going to listen to you again. Wait for one of his truth jokes.
Ryan's laughing in the background because he knows that gets put in a group chat.
I've had a few of them.
Now I know what you meant.
It's just like, because obviously there is things that people do that you aren't happy with, or like, but they've not done it intentionally so you're trying to get your point across without being like brutal or like falling out.
Nothing worse than that. It's the same, like, see if, for instance, if your wife makes a dinner, it's nice.
Watch where you're going.
She's made it nicer before.
Exactly, that's a truth joke.
Is it meant to be a bit watery?
That's a truth
You
joke.
taste the water and you see a grill and you're like, because I really love it. So you got it for the rest of your life watery.
Exactly, bit watery every time.
That steak's a bit overcooked, but I love it. It's been the best one. At least you can get out it. The only thing is,
Leaves it on the grill for an extra 5 minutes next time. There's that steak the way you love it.
not a rubber.
Do you know I went vegetarian all of a sudden?
They chickpeas here, alright. True though, innit? I've never heard that phrase, a truth joke, but no, that.
You'll be in the dressing room tomorrow.
But it's actually, you're actually being
My wife's
serious.
got a few. Yeah,
So I suppose that not quite the truth jokes, but then the sort of kind of line that gets crossed when somebody's maybe within a changing room environment, when the jokes go beyond what's laughable, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Where somebody actually might be taking it to heart, but nobody picks up on how that person's reacting to it, how that person's feeling. Does that make sense? Do you know?
It is some of that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
maybe you
of course
think you have a laugh at training, and maybe somebody takes that home with them. Do you know what I mean? Rather than being like, that was a laugh. It's not like 90% of the people forget about it, but there's like one person that's maybe takes.
I don't think that happens as much anymore because I think it's a bit softer now in terms of you'd probably stay with your own boys and. For instance,
You'll have your own sort of clique that you
Zander
can
slaughtered me, like, what about that chance you missed, Tony? I would then say, what big Zander dropping balls again? But if he never said that to me, I would never ever make a joke like that to him because you need to read the room now and there's lines, but for me, I always let people put the lines in place first. See how far they go and then
wouldn't they go sort of you being the one leading the
exactly
sort of slagging
if there's 5 different guys at my table at lunch and they'll all have different lines for me 100%, like there'll be people I can go deep with and people I would just be nice to. Do you know what I mean? There would be nowadays I don't think you can get away with, like you say, the truth jokes are fine, but I think there's a certain line for every single player. I don't think you can say to somebody.
I probably had it when I went from part-time to full-time. I probably went through a period like possession. I was hopeless at possession. And boys would make a joke about me being hopeless at possession.
You want to keep the ball one time?
And then see in training, the possession would be coming up and I'd be thinking, possession, man, and I'm gonna give the ball away or something. Do you know what I mean? But maybe I'd probably give the ball away loads. But even if I just gave it away once, it'd be in my mind.
See getting injured so much, literally like going on the pitch for probably a good 3-4 years. Am I going to last today's game? Am I actually going to last? Honestly, for about 4 years, I reckon it was, from when I left just towards the end of my career at Dundee, went to United, whole time at United, into the time at St Mirren.
Do you think that makes you break down?
I literally just like it's in your head all the time, mentally exhausted by just going.
You'd obviously after, because I didn't know Robb when he told me after, like I'd go into a game knowing I wasn't even.
See that?
I wasn't even injured.
Wasn't even like literally like
if
to the point where
I know I'd break down.
Because you get like obviously, but then that's just me. Because then you start thinking, well, what's the manager thinking of me as well? I'm ready to go. I'm going to break down the day. I know I'm going to break down the day. He obviously knows I'm going to break down. so like, there would be games where playing down at Hearts, and I think we were winning 4-0. They played great, and then it got to about 65, 70 minutes, and he took me off because I think he knew that like I've literally got like an amazing 70 minutes, 60 minutes. So you know what, just come in, and then I played the following week, and this is a true story. Alex McLeish, Scotland manager at the time, and had asked the chairman about me, like we'd been discussing it, and I played against Celtic. It was 1-1. And stayed on, I ripped my hamstring 85 minutes, and I was out for 3 months.
But do you think that's just
my hamstring?
See, if I've had an injury and I go back on the pitch, it's not when will I break down, it's how does that feel after that? A wee test or whatever, and it's not. But see, if I thought I'm worried about this, I'd be like, oh, I need to go off. I can feel it, and I'd tell myself.
Came from like repetitive, though. It wasn't just maybe
repetitive.
one time.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
If you did that and broke down again, did it and broke, and then would that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
that would kill me.
There's such a big part of sport, not just football, but sport in general. That's all about your mentality, like how you deal with stuff like injuries, how you deal with like, obviously contracts you've spoke about before, about how you bounce back from not having a great game, but everything probably that a club does is based around the physical aspect. Is there much, or do you think there's enough done around about the mental aspect?
I used to I said this before, but like one of the best players I played with was Barry Robson at United, and he was an absolute machine, and it never would have crossed his mind once that he was going to get injured during the game.
He's
just
so
confident in his ability, and it's like just the way he was, and like I'd build up towards a game thinking like, oh, am I going to get through this on a Saturday? Whereas he was already thinking about going to the gym on a Sunday to do his 4 minutes after 90 minutes on a Saturday. Scoring
for this game because I'm going to be brilliant.
That was the difference.
You know, see the thing is, see you carbon copied him, right, and you gave him a defeatist mindset, you'd make more mistakes with a defeatist mindset, and he'd make a lot more. He'd be so much more confident to make it. It's so positive, preach positive, and negative, preach negative.
Do you have like psychologists in football, like not like sort of to do with it, but like to make you positive and like make you think positive thoughts and stuff.
There is folk, there's like boys that do it out with, sort of your club and that have obviously trained to be it, and you can obviously reach out to them and just sort of help.
See, even like now having like a business, like having a business brain and a business mindset now, like I always like I kind of wish, looking back, so say I was at United getting £1,000 a week, whatever, like see at that time I almost wish that I invested say £100 of my wages a week, a percentage of my in somebody that would, a PT and a nutritionist and like little bit what Ronaldo does, but on a you're almost like I'm the business here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how many boys like at your guys' level and above? Because obviously it's difficult going down to the part-time level with boys that earn a couple £100 a week. They can't. That money has to go in the kitty for. Yeah. But if anybody has any excess money, go right. I'm 25 now. I've got an opportunity.
Even 5-10%.
Yeah. Can I invest in my future by?
And you can even say, I'll give you 10% of future, so that they're really investing in you. Do you know what I mean?
Is that because you just go, right? I've made £1,000 a day. This £100 I've made out, that's going aside to get an hour. Like, I don't know if it's line or whatever, but not 1,000 or 100. But do you just put money aside to go? We'll push that on that in your head, not put it aside, but go, or we'll invest in this because we've done so well here.
We probably just reinvest everything. We probably just like make money, reinvest it, make money, reinvest it.
Similar to what you would do as a player though, in terms of, but it's the same picture. Almost said to me, I don't mind paying for organic food or that because you spend an extra £200 a month. You're investing it in you.
Exactly. It's a perfect example.
Because it is more expensive to eat healthy and eat organic. But sure. At the end of the day,
it's better than yourself.
It's benefits. It's percentages. And as you say, you want to prolong your career as much as you can, and the only way to do that is to keep taking care of yourself constantly. The one thing that gets me, and not just football again, but in sport, I don't know if it's across the board, but like I make comparisons about like mental health and physical health being the same. You need to work on them. So everybody's got mental health. There's a difference between having mental health and having mental ill health, right? So everybody copes with mental health, like having a bad game, like not getting great sales, whatever it is, letting in a goal or whatever it may be. That affects you. So you then start to have negative thoughts, right? But if you have got strategies in place to help you work and deal with those feelings, because as you were saying earlier on, how much physical training do you put in a week?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? To take care of your body, and you'll consistently do that. And if you drop that, then you're not going to be in physical peak condition. But your mental health's just the same. But there's a massive part of football sport business that comes down to your mental health. So it almost seems a bit crazy to me that we don't invest as much in that, and we don't look at it the same way.
Do you think there's a, like, see how we were talking about Barry Robson,
Yeah.
a sort of bulletproof mentality, like, really, do you think there's a way that you can train that? Do you think you, like, if
I
you
definitely think you can improve on it.
But can you make yourself think and believe that way, or do you think you'd always?
I think somebody could train you to do that.
I always think that because obviously you take it back to like basic sort of kind of natural instincts that you develop over the years, so you can have the sort of fight or flight mode that people speak about. So if you are faced with sort of confrontation or survival kind of instinct within you, then naturally you either run from it or you stand up and fight, and that's just a kind of, and that can be bred over sort of the kind of nurture versus nature argument. But what I always think is, personally, like I used to do Thai boxing. I think I had mentioned that to you before, and I would probably always been more a flight person, and before a fight I would sit, and in fact there was a fight show I fought on where basically I went to my mum's house because I couldn't watch any of the fights before it because I was feeling sick with nerves. And like by the time I got there and it was my fight, I was like ready to go. I don't know what it was, just this but I've built that up over like one fight, two fights, three, so every time I was doing it, and this was a kind of one later on, but I almost kind of forced myself into saying, no, listen, you've trained the same as him. You've put in the work, so whatever happens in here is done to you. You're in control of that. So I think 100%.
See, because like during my football career, I probably always doubted myself rather than was like confident in myself, and it's probably changed now. I probably don't doubt myself as much in business. I don't
You can still be successful doing that though. But I don't think it kills you doing it. But I agree with what you're saying. I think you'll be more successful being the positive. But see before games, like there's some Friday nights I go, what if this happens? But then I think, how many times in a game do I get a lucky break, try to go by somebody and end up on the wrong side, and he either fouls me, gets a yellow card, or I get a shot, and there's no exact science. You get away with so much, like, especially nowadays, like breaking the ball, whatever, can change you, and you can't worry about it. But I'm the worst as well. Like, seeing first game of the season, I'm like, better break my duck here, better get a goal here, or else I could be 3 or 4 games without a goal, and then it could be a month, and then it could be 2 months, and then where am I going to score for? And then I think, then you score and you go, actually, I can score.
Football's funny like that, isn't it? It changes so quick, because like, see if you're on a losing run, you'd be like, where's the next win coming for? But then see when you're winning, you're like, we're never going to lose.
You're never going to lose.
It's unbeatable.
That was us before the weekend. We were like that. Where are we going to win? Where are we going to win? I won there at half time. We're like, Jesus, this is not coming. This is not. And then you score early. Then you win the game. And you're like, well, we can go and win the next weekend. We'll have 7 points out of it.
It's
7 points out of 12.
It's a mindset shift, and I think what probably you're talking about, Mark, and it's maybe there are certainly ways to improve in your confidence and to improve in how you think, but certainly it's like a mindset shift. So when you're sitting up, you work in that. Like I said, it's like your physical health. If you work in things to help you improve in how you sort of think things through, then you're going to shift the balance, but you need to keep working on it. So if you do that maybe 1 week and you say, right, okay, if we get down a goal tomorrow, then we're really up against it. But if that mindset shifts and you start saying, right, see if we get down a goal, we just need to work harder. But you need to keep that. There's a momentum. I think it's something like 28 days to develop a change of habit. So if you keep doing that persistently and keep it up, then that will change. But 100% you can improve on it. But it's a continual. But it's just like,
how long does it take to come out of that habit? I'm asking because I'm more thinking about when the first lockdown. I was like, right, I'm going to get fit, and like I was on the hit sessions every day. I see for 3-4 months solid. Like I was batting it, and then see for like, I'm just thinking now I've not done one.
So you lose it. But how long did you stop doing it for?
Oh, I've stopped doing it
because you've been there for 28 days. You've got a new habit, haven't you?
That's my habit.
None of you were use captains during your career, leaders, not. Like, so how do you go from being a footballer, do your business, and it becomes successful, to then leading people just getting in and getting about it.
It's difficult, mate.
It's tough.
Difficult.
It's tough. It's like Mark said. We're no confrontational people. So like, see, having like, we got to a stage where we then started hiring people who are more experienced or better at the jobs than what we are.
A lot of people wouldn't, because they'd be like, he's better than me. I don't want him to be better than me.
Like you delegate to different departments. Like Callum McDonald that played at Dundee with me. We grew up together. We were at school together, and he's their warehouse manager now. But like he's probably a bit more stricter than what me and Mark are.
Is that to do with trust as well? Because you know he's my mate.
Sure. And I know he can take care of that area for sure.
We've had like a finance director, and do you know what I mean? I think like a business is probably different away that, because like at the end of the day, it's me and Robbo's business. You can't take that away for us.
Yeah.
So we want to be successful. So to be successful, we have to bring in people that are better at certain things than
But
we
in
are.
football, you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't if you're in the same position as me and the manager says to me, "Do you know a striker?"
I know somebody that played in Bulgaria with.
That's the guy. I was the second division Bulgaria. Quite good. Do you know what I mean? No, it's your business and you want it to do well.
It's probably a mind shift in that.
We've tried to build a team that like basically everybody's pulling together. Everybody at the end of the day, and our business, everybody's got like a mortgage to pay. So basically, we all need to put. Because see, at the end of the day, see if it fails tomorrow, then like everybody else is on the street looking for a job now. So it's like,
see if you had the business right and you paid everybody minimum wage, and you no, but seriously, right? You paid everybody minimum wage.
We get lynched.
No, but this is what I mean. Paid everybody minimum wage. You didn't treat them well, like maybe your big corporations. They're not going to do well for you. They're never going to. If somebody's earning, I don't know what the minimum wage is, but say they're earning £100 a week or whatever, they're not going to be like, I'm going to give my life and soul. But see if you treat people well, you pay them well, and you're saying everybody's going up, and they've got the mortgage to pay, they're earning good money. They're going to be like that. We kind of owe them a bit. We've got a good life. We've got a good.
One thing we've probably found. One thing we've probably found in the last 2 years has been we went in a period that it was just growing at a crazy rate, like ridiculous, like to the point where it's like it just almost spins out of control a little bit, and you lose touch with certain things in the business. So like seeing the whole COVID period, we've tried to like bring it a little bit more in touch with everybody, so that it's like we can consolidate and move forward. We've built so many good foundations over the last year that we can then kick on to the next level.
That's what I would
so like say we've brought in like staff in certain areas that are like more experienced, like the finance director, we've got a marketing team, we've got an in-house designer, so we're investing in the business, and the foundations are built so that
you'd give £100 out your grand a week.
Exactly.
But this is what you're
exactly.
This is like me asking him how to get good at business.
Have you? I'll tell you. Have you ever heard of Damien Hughes? He does the High Performance podcast, with Jake Humphries, right? Yep. So if he wrote a book called The Barcelona Way, and some of his podcasts you listen to, he talks about like building cultures within business and sport teams, and what he talks about is like 5 different types of kind of culture within. He talks about teams, but also in business, and it's like autocratic. I can't even remember what the 5 of them are, but basically the star model was one of them, and he kind of talks about Real Madrid being the star model, where their perception of how to get good is pick the best ever. So like Ronaldo, like all the best players, so we're going to pick superstars. But then there's I can't remember what the name of the model is, but he basically said it's about people who have all got a niche and bring it. So it's a kind of leadership style that you guys have obviously adopted or adapted to, and it's like bringing in people that know what they're doing in their own fields. So although they might not be like superstars, what they are good at what they do, and they have their own, but treat it as equal within the team.
The way the business has changed massively. Just because we have brought like a finance director that's giving us budgets, telling us like the GP margin, like gross profit margin every day of like after marketing, and like that's something that me and him had no idea about 2 years ago. We were just buying something.
I think
we were just buying stuff and selling it.
Even like the outset, people go, "I just make a couple of t-shirts and you sell them." It's no like that.
So your profit, he's come in and widened the gap to make more money. Is that?
Yeah, just like
So before we wouldn't know what our profit margin was. We would just be like, we're selling this and we make it at the end of the year. We've got this. Whereas like
Buying
he
it for
knows,
£10, selling it for 20. I made a 10.
He's like too precise. Like I know what you are making all the time or what you're not making. Or, like, do you know what I mean? It's mental. It's mad.
And then does he say he's like, here's how to make more money?
So he'll be like, right, we're going to do this with the warehouse. Like when we first came in, like he literally came into the warehouse and he's like, oh my god, look at the amount of stock you've got. Why are you carrying all that stock in here? You literally didn't need like to do the turnover that you're.
We were carrying like 3 months worth of stock, and he's like, you should be carrying 6 weeks. You should be turning over your stock every 6
all the
weeks.
time. You should be coming in the door, going out the door, coming in the door. Whereas we were like holding it until it got to the end of summer, and then we go like, we'll have our sale now, and then like we'll just get rid of it, and then it just like
no more sales.
So basically, so he's just helped us with that, with him having that business background to then us.
And that's something me and him would never that's what I mean, bringing in expertise. We would never have known anything about
especially that. When we first started, you'd be like, right, we'll get it flying, then we'll just run it, and then
but that's just as it grows and it develops. So at the moment, you've got roughly 500 new caps that have went into production. Am I right in saying
they
that?
just arrived in the
warehouse.
Did
you like that?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, they've just arrived in the warehouse. So
tell us a wee bit about them.
I think we'd spoke to obviously Phil Maguire with you guys initially and just said we'd like to do a collaboration with you guys. Just obviously the story behind, I think it was a Lee Mayer.
Lee Mayer had done 4 miles every 4 hours.
The 448, the David Goggins one.
He'd highlighted that quite a bit, and it was just something that like I'd discussed with Mark. I thought it would be good for us, as I think Mark touched on earlier, maybe giving something back to kind of getting footballers involved and stuff like that. So so I spoke to you guys and came up with the idea of let's create a cap. So
a cap's a good thing because it's like one size sort of fits all. You don't have various like sizes and the style's quite good. And obviously, do you know what I mean? The boys.
That's why they've just rolled in.
Extra large. I don't know if that one size fits all fits for me. I think I need about 5 of them, so the other. That's the truth jokes floating about again.
Locking up that light.
So the plan for that is it's going to go on sale the 9th of September, I think. So and all proceeds will donated back to you guys. So
fantastic. That really is. It's a cracking gesture. If you don't mind, quickly, I'm just going to run over what that can mean for the charity, because obviously I spoke briefly just about the project that hopefully we're going to be up and running soon-ish, which is the academy. But in the meantime, I've got some figures actually. So in the past, the year dating for 2020, there were 2,458 one-to-one professional counselling sessions carried out by the charity. 32 changing room chats, so basically getting into changing rooms, talking to players, giving them a wee bit of insight and awareness around mental health, and obviously letting them know what supports are available. And that was during COVID, so obviously the numbers for that will go back up once we can get out and about again. 9,100 calls to the crisis line, so there's obviously a crisis line that people can contact if they need support. 520 call outs, so basically when somebody is in need and needs somebody to speak to them there and then, or they are in immediate crisis, people, the charity will go out and speak to these people face to face. 15 school visits, so also there's a programme going to be, it's been passed by the SQA to go into schools, so that's something else that's also in development. And the caps are going for £25 each, is that right? Yep. So about 500 caps at the moment would mean 20 people would receive one-to-one counselling sessions, which that would be a massive help. You imagine 20 people that are in dire need of help, so they won't pay for those sessions. Those sessions will be obviously covered with that.
One session, well, that'll be a few, you mean?
That's one counselling session. So just 20 people could get one-to-one counselling session. Aye. So it does. I mean, you can imagine how much it costs for the charity to keep running. So things like this, and obviously you guys are getting involved with the golf day. Which is another big thing that'll be coming up.
We've both said we're quite keen to be actively involved in going forward with you guys on certain things like charity football matches and golf days and stuff like that. any way we can help with prizes and stuff like that is like.
Zander will speak for us as well. And
Yeah, well, I think it's great having these two lads here. Like, we reached out to these guys. It's like, I think, like, as a brand, we're trying to like have an inspiring story. Obviously, with the name, be inspired. So, like, putting it out there, that positive message to our, not just our customers, but potential customers, but just to anybody in general. Just like, and I find that young sportsmen that. We used to be, and these guys are
still looking alright. I think I'm going to be about 10 stone heavier than both of us.
That was the hit sessions in lockdown. We're starting to get a wee belly on me.
Back 28 days and you'll have it back.
We'll see.
No, that's fantastic. Well, I'm running in an ultra marathon in the 19th of September. So I'm going to start. Just when you're saying you're willing to get involved. I'll wear the hat and hopefully if you could meet me at a couple of checkpoints just to run a few miles. Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
Aye.
It's
tremendous.
See if you can help one person for you. Exactly. Doing. And if you're reaching out to do that, that's unbelievable for you. I know that's.
You should say if you can help one person, be able to help 20s. Massive.
User success. You should have just sat on your couch and went, nah, well, we're getting the money and we're doing well. We are. To actually have the feeling to help people out. I know people won't believe it, but there's a lot of people that wouldn't do it.
No.
People say, nah, charity comes at home, a family first, which you can understand people care about a family, but if you're in the position, you must feel good that you can help others. You can do a bit. Do you know what I mean? You always feels good when you can.
Definitely.
We wouldn't be where we are unless people helped us, though. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah. And you don't give to get. You're doing that, and what that means to the charity is unbelievable. And obviously, on behalf of the charity, I must say thank you to you guys for getting on board with that. It's much appreciated.
No problem.
Guys, I think we could wrap up just about there, unless anybody's got anything to add.
No, I've got no business advice for you.
You might need relationship advice when you tell your missus about what our dinner's like.
Tony's doing an apprenticeship at Be Inspired next week.
I'm a bit old on 17 to 21.
Well, listen, guys, thanks very much. If anybody enjoys the podcast, even if you don't, just give us a like, share it, let everybody know about it, and you can find us on www.backonside.co.uk. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Perfect.